Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Dimes with Dara on the Joyce Slot podcast, brought to you by irishsportsdaily.com. That's former Notre Dame basketball player Dara Mabrey, and I'm Greg Flammang, and today we're going to be discussing the national landscape of women's college basketball with a look at the AP Top 25, where the ACC fits in that, where Notre Dame fits into that discussion, and if Notre Dame is in the top tier of teams heading into the 2023-2024 season. Thank you very much for being here. If this is your first time catching us, please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. Please hit the notification bell so that you know that we are going live whenever we go live or when we drop a new video like we are right now. If you noticed, we have a pretty spiffy new intro to the show that was brought to you by VSRmedia.com or VSRmediacompany.com, which is founded by Notre Dame pregame host and Emmy Award-winning anchor Vahid Sadrazadeh. And VSR Media provides professional and cinematic video and photo. Whether you're looking for a collegiate or pro-level highlight reel, have a personal story to tell, or are aiming to diversify and grow your business, VSR Media specializes in short and long-form video storytelling, social media management, and website design. VSR Media also captures professional headshots, senior, and sports photos. Contact them at vsrmediacompany.com. Mention Irish Sports Daily to receive 20% off your first project. Visit them online or give them a call at 574-800-9106. We are recording this on a Monday, and it'll be releasing on Wednesday. So we are a day after the ACC Tip-Off. Have you been a part of the ACC Tip-Off before, Dara, as a former? Let's talk about that. How did you like that?
I loved it. Obviously, I love media. It's something I wanted to get into for a long time.
Yeah.
I was able to go at Virginia Tech and at Notre Dame, and it was so fun. I think my first year at Notre Dame, I went with Maddie, and then my second year, I went with Olivia Miles.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fun. You get to catch up with other people from other teams, see other people in the conference, coaches, players, support staff, etc., and the people in the media who run ACC Network, Kelsey Riggs, Kelly Gramlich, Muffet McGraw, Debbie Antonelli, all those great people. There's a ton of others that I haven't mentioned. Don't think I forgot about you. But they're amazing. Just you get to see great people interact, and it gets you excited for the season. You get to see some of the people that you're going to compete against. And it's just a good way to kick off the season. Maybe for some other people, get to know some new faces, some new personalities. Some of those people from the transfer portal that might be going, new coaches. It's just really fun, really good atmosphere, and they always do a great job every year.
Notre Dame is going to be sending Sonia Citron and Kylee Watson. It's going to be in Charlotte. We talked a lot about Sony on the preview show that we dropped last week, and if you haven't caught that, please, I'm going to link it to that. Is going to be in the description below, so check that out if you haven't done so already. So talked a lot about Sony, but not so much about Kylee Watson, Dara. What can you tell us about Kylee and what she can bring to the team in 2023 and 2024?
Kylie's a great all-around player. She's going to run the floor really hard. She's going to look for those leak outs, those transition layups. She's an athlete, and she's very persistent in her work in the post. She has a ton of counter moves, so that's why it makes it really hard to stop her. She's playing a bigger role this year, stepping into a leadership role, upperclassman. She got her first year with Notre Dame underneath her belt, and she's looking really confident. She's gotten so much better. That's why I'm so excited to see her out there and for everybody to see her in an Irish uniform again. And I think at ACC Media Day will be really fun for her because, you know, outside of her playing abilities, she is such a fun, spunky personality. She always has jokes. She's always in a good mood. Kylee brings the same thing to the table every day, outside of her motor, obviously, and her abilities on the court, but she's bubbly, she's happy, she's really funny, sarcastic at times. I can't say enough good things about her, and I'm just so excited for her to, top off even what she did last year. She had a great year last year, but there was other post players too. We talked about new people coming in for Notre Dame in that post spot. But her role remains the same, and she's going to run the floor. She's going to be persistent. She's going to make more free throws. It's definitely something she worked on in the off season. She would tell you that herself, but that's one thing that I'm really excited to see about Kylee. And just overall to have her out there, she just brings so much energy to the court. Like she has this motor that I keep mentioning that like is unmatched. Like she's gonna go 100 miles per hour the whole time.
Yeah. So transferred from Oregon. She played her first 2 years at Oregon, and she transferred into Notre Dame last year. Power forward, 6'4",
Yep.
right, running the floor.
Yep.
Playing behind Maddie, playing behind Lauren Ebo, and now she gets the opportunity to kind of take her game to the next level, earn her starting role, if that's going to be there. Going to ACC Tip-Off, right? So that's going to be it kind of goes to show like how Notre Dame feels about her, how Niele Ivey feels about her. She's going to be one of the faces at the for the program at the ACC Tip-Off. That's going to be interesting. I do want to get a little bit. Get the audience a little bit more into you. I didn't put this in the outline because I wanted to kind of spring it on you a little bit, but about your career and that sort of thing. Tell me about the most points you scored in a college basketball game.
In a college basketball game, it was actually my first game ever in a Notre Dame uniform, and I scored 34 at Ohio University. We did lose. We had a pretty tough year. It was our COVID year, but that was really fun. At the end of the game, I had no idea I scored that many, and neither did Niele. We were like, damn, like 34 is pretty prolific for a season opener. So that was fun, but it was also hard to celebrate because we didn't win. So like 30 points feels like almost pointless when you don't win the game. Like I'd rather score 0 and win than 40 and lose. You know,
there had to have been like something of a weight off your shoulders, right? Though, because like first game for Notre Dame. You're well, but you're a Mabrey, right? Like that matters, right? Like you're carrying on the tradition. I was talking to someone yesterday about this show, and I was telling them about you, and I was like, it's hard for me to. Like there are 3 Mabreys, right? Like it's a famous family within Notre Dame basketball. And I was like, I don't have like a great comp. And this person said, well, the Mannings. And I was like, yeah, if the Mannings had all gone to like Tennessee or Ole Miss or something like that, then
we all go to the same university. Yeah.
So I was like, it's a big deal. And I feel like for you, it's like, look it's one of those things where, do I have a lot to prove? I don't know, but it would be good to come out and have a good performance in your first game. Obviously, hitting scoring 34 points. I believe that included 7 threes.
Yeah, 21 of those. Yeah, it was just so fun, and it did mean a lot because I was stepping into a leadership role on a brand new team. So like sometimes that can be difficult. You don't know everybody, and it's not like you're just coming in and like. I'm gonna just play my part and do my best. And it wasn't that. Like Niele was like, I'm not bringing you here to do that. Like you're here to lead the team. I trust in your leadership abilities. And that also was big for me because it's like I did know Niele my whole life, but now I was about to play for her, and she still had the same confidence in me that she had like when she would help me when I was on other teams, like in high school or at a different university at Virginia Tech. And I mean, it's just awesome. Like I could like sit in my house, like our jerseys. I think I mentioned this last time, but like our Notre Dame jerseys are here. So basically surrounded by family members left and right. And it's just been an awesome experience. And that game was so fun. We did lose and it sucked, but like it was cool. I was like, all right, I think I made pretty good presence, solid mark, take this thing off.
Yeah. And so, start off on the right foot and then you can kind of get that out of the way. Yeah. I'm here. I belong here, and let's go forward. So we mentioned on the first show about how you're the leading talker, right? And that and when we talked about it, that was like to your teammates, right? So always communicating and that sort of thing. Were you a trash talker on the basketball court?
I think I gained the reputation as one. It's funny because like I have friends on other staffs and on other teams, and I would be like, what was the scouting report on me? And I vividly remember some of them said like she's gonna run her mouth, and I was like, I always thought of it as like, if you start it, I'm gonna return it even worse. You know what I mean? So like I'm not the type of player that just goes out there and just like starts talking smack for no reason and like runs their mouth. Cause I'm also a firm believer that like you can only talk the smack like if you're gonna back it up.
Right.
You know? So yeah, there was definitely some games that I talked more smack in than usual. But I don't like, it's just how I am. It's part of my identity. Like I'm from New Jersey, and I kind of like growing up, I was like so obviously shorter and like not as long as, you know, my siblings who I was always compared to growing up. So like Marina Michaela, when we would play one-on-one in the driveway, like I had to bring something else. And it was always just like my heart and my competitiveness. Like that was going to be the biggest thing about me. And yeah, I mean, it's no hard feelings. If anyone's watching this that I've talked smack to in the past, it's just on the court stuff. And I respect it. I love other players that do it too. Like it's not personal, like it's a game. It's a heated environment. Let's go. If that's how you hype up your team, if that's what makes you feel good, brings the best out of you, by all means, you know? And it's fun. It's an emotional game.
Yeah. Yeah, like, so I totally understand where you're coming from. It's like, I'm not going to start it kind of thing. Because I always went into games just like, I'm not trying to embarrass anybody. You know what I mean? Like, we're all just out here playing. We're all competing. You know, like, I'm not trying to, like, get in your head or whatever. Like, I was a person where, like, as a football player, and even not so much in basketball, but, like, as a football player, like, if someone made, like, a good catch on me or something, I would tell them, like, hey, that's a good catch. Like right after the play, like I would say that's good. But if someone talks to me in a way that I feel like, are you trying to like embarrass me or something, like that will flip the switch. And then that will get it going. It's just like, well, wait a second. Like you're breaking the rules now, you know, like don't come in here acting like you're going to get to me. Like that's not how it works. Right. Like I'm respecting you. I expect respect in coming back. If I don't get it, then it comes.
Yeah, you know? I think there's a fine line. Like, I think when I'm on defense, like, I'm gonna try to get in your head like as much as possible. But like my first weapon to get in your head is not telling you that like you suck or something. Like it's gonna be like picking you up full court, like letting you know my presence is definitely there. And like I think there's differences in like when you talk. I keep saying talk smack. I keep having to like change my vocabulary. Like when you talk smack, it's like there's certain things that like people might say that'll make you laugh where I'm just like, okay, like that was just stupid. You know what I mean? And then there's other types of smack that's like real talk. Like, all right, let's go. Like we're in a battle. Like, go. Like, you know, you can't mess with me. You're not on my level kind of thing. Like, some people know how to do it and some people don't like at all. So when you get to the people that don't, it's kind of like laughable in some sense.
Those are the best games though, honestly. Like when it's like for real, you know, that's when it's like, oh, okay. You know, like, and it does, like, it brings you out. But like, if you just have to, it's weird how like, you know, people say like going into every game, like you have to be turned up. It is interesting to me. Maybe it's, I don't know if it's like this for everyone, but it wasn't for me where it's like, I can't do that on my own. I need someone else. Like if someone else does it, then that's like really, it like triggers me. And then that goes.
It's like a momentum swing sometimes. Like if you catch your teammate doing it, or like if you see your teammate get in a scuffle, like if I ever see my teammate get in a scuffle, like I'm going to be the first one there. Like I know I'm definitely the smallest on the court probably against any team, but like you're going to see me there, like just doing what I can, whether it's like protecting my teammate or like breaking up something. Like it's never to like add fuel like to the fire. I think you learn that when you're older and like you become like a veteran in college or whatever. Like there's a difference between like petty smack talking and like you're just hype. So I guess there's a difference, like between getting hype and like directly like saying something to somebody else.
Yeah. Well, let's start to get hyped about the AP top 25, right? Like let's it's going to be a fun season, I think, with Notre Dame sitting there at 10. So let's just pull it up right now.
For sure.
So Notre Dame sitting there at 10. You've got LSU number 1. Let's just go through the top 10 here, and then we can go through the rest of the top 25. So you got LSU at 1, UConn at 2, Iowa 3, UCLA 4, Utah 5, South Carolina 6, who Notre Dame opens with in Paris, France. So we're going to be talking about that very soon, shortly. That's good stuff. Ohio State at 7, Virginia Tech at 8, and Indiana at 9, followed by Notre Dame at 10. Obviously, LSU is ranked number 1, the defending national champions.
Yeah.
It is crazy how, like, okay, people, when the transfer portal happened, and not so much the transfer portal, but like the automatic, like you can go right away. You know what I mean? Like you can play right away. You don't have to do a waiver or anything. Like people said, oh, it's going to be like free agency. It's like, well, I don't know. It truly is like free agency in that like they LSU just added players, right? Obviously, famously, Haley Van Lith was added from Louisville, and then they recently got DePaul's Anissa Morrow, who also came in and rounded out their team. So they're looking like
stacked.
A very formidable team. So you say stacked. Like, tell me about that. Like when you saw them add Haley Van Lith, I think a lot of people were like, well, that's kind of a big deal. And now
for sure,
you know, they have Anissa Morrow as well. Like, tell me about them. Just like, do you feel like in your mind, are they like the odds-on favorite to repeat?
Yeah, I mean, it's given. Like they're coming off the national championship, they return almost everybody, and then add great players like Van Lith, Anissa Morrow. I think that combination between Angel Reese and Anissa Morrow is huge. It's going to be really hard to stop because like Kim Mulkey is going to make you play defense, you know, like they're going to play defense the entire game. And then you add that duo of even more rebounding, like, you know, they're going to rebound too. And then with Van Lith, like that just makes everything easier. She's combo guard. She can shoot it. She can score. She's really good. She's tough. She fits their identity. Stacked by all means. Definitely a favorite. I think they have the most talented roster in the country. If we're speaking on that, I think my one question for them is, what's the point guard position looking like? Because you have a couple options there. It depends on what she wants to go with. I would like to see Haley Van Lith at the 1. I think they have an offense that it's a lot of ball screens, so it's continuous. It's versatile in that aspect, because they did lose Alexis Morris, who got graduated. But I think that might be something like we might be surprised at whoever is at that point guard spot. But at the end of the day, they're going to play defense. They're going to rebound, and it's no surprise over here that they're the favorite this year.
And the thing about college basketball too is you can slip up early in the year, figure things out by conference play, and then head into the tournament playing great. I mean, that's what LSU did last year, right? Like they were one of the lowest seeds ever to win it, right? But by the time tournament came, they weren't really that, you know. So
have that experience. The experience helps so much. I mean, obviously Kim Mulkey's resume is amazing, but the players, like, now they know what it's like to be there. They know what it takes to get to that spot, and it's hard. It is not easy. But I mean, you credit Angel Reese, like that's her squad. Like she's a great leader, and she's gonna bring that every single night, no doubt.
That's such a thing with basketball, is like winning it. Like actually, I feel like it. Like in football, it doesn't really translate. Like it can, but I mean, maybe because there's so much turnover. But in basketball, like I've seen it in like we just saw it, like back-to-back champions in the WNBA, right? Like we just saw how a team, when they get over the hump and they figure out how to win in like after a long season like that and through a tournament, I feel like there's such value in figuring out how to win in basketball in like the high leverage situations. Like much more so than like other sports. Do you agree with that? Like it's different in basketball than it is in other sports. Why do you think that is? Why is that?
I think basketball is a really long season. If you look at it compared to other seasons, like you start practice, I think you could start like at the end of September. This might be completely wrong. Is it like the 20th or something? You could start just call it September 20th.
Okay.
And if you make it to the final, you're going all the way into like the beginning of April. And you have multiple games every single week. And it's like, that's a lot to learn. And you have, like, in conference, you can repeat, you can play the same team twice, maybe even 3, maybe even 4 times, depending if you make it to the final or not. Like, you know how much you're learning and taking in, like, from a basketball game, and it's a game of possessions. You could learn something every single possession if you think about it. And like, you're a unit. So like, it's not like football where you got to pay attention to, if you're on offense, you pay attention to the offense, you know? If you're on defense, you pay attention to the defense. Like, you have to pay attention to all detail in basketball. And with that long of a season, like, it's beyond me. Like, even looking back at my first year at Notre Dame, I learned so much, so much.
So rounding out, so after LSU is UConn at 2. They get Paige Beckers back. She was the 2020-2021 National Player of the Year. Had a knee injury last year, so that obviously hurt them a lot. Ozzie Fudd is back on their team, and then Aaliyah Edwards is also. I mean, as far as trios go, I mean, it's hard to get better than that in the country. And so for you, how is the what is the separation? But let's say like separation between LSU and someone like UConn, right? Is it just like depth of talent, or is it just the fact that they won the title and then they're gonna go on from there? Or do you feel like UConn is just kind of in the same tier as them?
Tough comparison in terms of system and rosters. I mean, Gino Auriemma has been running the same offense at UConn, since he's been there.
Yeah.
I think UConn is just as capable as LSU at winning a national championship. I think that UConn doesn't have much depth. They don't have as much depth as LSU, specifically in the post. So like, you have Aaliyah Edwards, who is absolutely phenomenal. And then you take, already LSU has 2 post players out there that are great. So like, what is UConn's identity in the post spot? So do they go more of 4 guards this year and leave Aaliyah Edwards out there? Do they play another post alongside of her? Because one of their post players, correct me if I'm wrong, just suffered. She's out for the year because of the Achilles injury.
Okay.
So do they go 4 guards? I think the difference between them right now is that depth at the post spot. But UConn's guards are phenomenal. You bring back Paige, Azzi Fudd, Caroline Ducharme, and then you have KK Arnold coming in as a freshman who's another really good guard. So, I mean, the separation there is, what's UConn, what are they going to do? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if you went 4 guards. That offense is really good. It's interchangeable, but I do think Aaliyah Edwards is going to need some eventually. That's a lot. That's a lot to ask, like on one post there. So we'll see what they do there. But I think just as capable as winning a national championship. They're really good. And just having Paige back is, I think, refreshing for the whole country. Everyone knows what it's like to go through a knee injury. So I definitely feel for her on that one. But I think she probably feels like she has so much. I mean, she already proved herself, but like she's probably just so excited to get back out there. And I think she'll have a breakout year. Like she's gonna be great. No question there on that one.
Yeah, just to back you up on the UConn freshman, Jana El Alfi, she ruptured her Achilles at the FIBA U19 Women's Basketball World Cup. So she's going to be out for the season, 6'5" forward, redshirt freshman. So she was going to be a big part of their team. And like you said, how do they deal with that, right? In terms of like 4 guards, like you said.
Right.
And we talked about how having someone like Sonia Citron is like that really helps when she can be like a 4 guard player. Do they have a player like that? So that is a question that they're going to have to answer. You have to think that Gino Auriemma can figure something out, right? Like not his first spin around the block, right? So
definitely
he's going
not his first rodeo, and probably not his first time he's run into this. I know Caroline Ducharme, she went in and out a little bit. I just remember because I was guarding her and she tried to post me up sometimes, which is funny. But I think maybe you could see her in that spot a little bit too. She's tall, she's strong, and she can shoot it, so she stretch the floor. So we'll see. We'll see what they do like in terms of those positions.
Who else in the top 10 stands out to you? Obviously, Iowa returns Caitlin Clark, who was the sensation of the NCAA tournament last year. Quite good player. Hashtag analysis. But who else there stands out to you just in the top 10, and then how Notre Dame fits in that? Because I am interested in what you think the tiers are in in women's college basketball. Like, like top, like Final Four kind of aspirations, and then kind of like tier below that kind of thing. But in the top 10, what do you see here? Like who stands out to you? Who fits your eye?
So they all stand out.
Okay.
I think if we're gonna go down, I'll go in order. If you're looking at Iowa, you can't put anything past Caitlin Clark. They could go win that national championship too. I don't even know how to put it into words. Unbelievable, can carry the team. Ohio State stands out to me too because they return almost everybody and then they add Celeste Taylor, which is perfect for their system. I mean, they full court press. She's defensive specialist. Like, they're going to be really good. South Carolina, they stand out to me because they lost a lot, right? But they replaced really well. Yeah. On the flip side. So I like Ohio State in there. I'm confident about them this year. What does Iowa do though? Looking at their post spot. So who replaces Monica Cesano? Because if you look at, I think I have, their stat is they were 8th in scoring defense, but 1st in scoring offense by 10 points, which is a lot. Yeah. Like, that's a big stat, leading the Big Ten by 10 points, but then 8th in scoring defense. So, like, what's going to give and take? Like, are they going to play more defense, or are more people going to score? Their coach is absolutely phenomenal. So, wouldn't be surprised if we see both, or if Caitlin Clark just keeps increasing her average, shooting more threes. But that's interesting there because that's big shoes to fill. Monica Cesano was absolutely phenomenal. So I think that might be one question for Iowa. I like the addition of Tahina Pau from Oregon onto South Carolina's roster because she's a point guard that can shoot the ball really well. So I like that addition. She brought in incoming freshmen that can shoot. Chloe Kitts can shoot the ball because Dawn Staley is phenomenal. She's really good at what she does, and they're going to rebound. They're going to rebound the ball, no doubt. Every possession, they have people flying in their offense and defense, and now they have people who can shoot it. So like we saw last year, a lot of people tried to play junk defense, play them in a zone, make them shoot the ball, and now it's like now they can shoot the ball. So like rebounding and shooting, that's tough. And I think like some people might think, oh, well, I'm curious to see how South Carolina comes together. Like I think they're going to come together because they're under Dawn Staley, and you can't put anything past her, given her record and just everything she's done for the game. Virginia Tech also stands out to me. They brought back their big three. Georgia Amore returns, Liz Kitley, Kayla King. They run a really good system. They're disciplined in their system. But who replaces Taylor Soule and Kiana Traylor? They were both really good at their role. And they went on to the WNBA overseas. Like, can't say enough good things about them. Mm-hmm. But I like the addition of shooters because Liz Kitley is going to get a touch. She's going to get a touch every possession, whether it's just touching it and kicking it back out or going up for a shot. And I like the replacement of shooters around her because that doesn't really change anything, Mm-hmm. Like they always had a program that can shoot the ball really, really well. But I think Georgia Amore also deserves more credit. Like she was so good. And I know I had a chance to play with her, so I could see it, but I think like a lot of people jumped on the bandwagon like late on her. But I mean, day in and day out, she's gonna run that team. She's gonna shoot the ball at a really high percentage. So I do like them up there at 8. I know they lost to Ohio State, so it's not they wouldn't be 7. But you have to credit her. If you look at that Ohio State 7 and them 8, you have to credit A more because she basically broke that press against Ohio State last year every time. And that's why they won the game. Like Ohio State's going to do that. They're going to frustrate you. And she dribbled through that press and you have to credit her. So, I mean, a performance like that, they made it to the Final Four later on. They had that experience and I bet you they're hungry. I bet you they're super pissed that they lost. And they're going to bring that swag back. And can't put anything past those 3. Kayla King also, not only she can shoot the ball, but she's also a great defender. They usually put her on the best player, super reliable, and I think veteran leadership and experience from those 3 is going to carry them a really long way. Let's look at these other.
So Georgia Amore, Georgia Amore going into her just to, back up with some numbers here. So going into her 4th season, right? So her senior year, she has started every game but 2 in her Virginia Tech career. 16 points last year, 5 assists and 3 rebounds. The thing that I would look at with her is it seems like as her usage went up, right, and on the ball more, 3-point shooting went down. So she went from 40% in her first 2 years to 35% last year. And obviously she started taking more. So 6 as a freshman, 5 as a sophomore, and then almost 10 last year. So it's just like the usage goes up, and it's like that's kind of always the question with like players as they. I mean, we saw it kind of with Sony last year, right? Where it's like the 3-point shooting took a dip as she became more of a ball handler, and so I think we've seen that with we saw that with Amore as well. So that's going to be a good question for her. And honestly, like I kind of look at it like that with Caitlin Clark this year as well. Like, as you say, they lost that other key player, and it's like it's hard to repeat something. Like I feel like obviously Caitlin Clark's a great player, but like last year I felt like she was truly like on a heater, like of like crazy epic proportions. Like can you repeat that from an efficiency standpoint, right? Because I think we've seen in college basketball like where coming back from a big season like that, because usually, in the women's game, you come back and play. Whereas like and like in the men's game, like something like that, you go on to the NBA or something like that. So you don't have to follow up like a huge, great season like that in college. You actually do it at the next level. So that'll be something to track. And so that's the top 10 that you just went down, with the exception of Notre Dame. Where do you feel like Notre Dame fits in here with those teams? Like, do you feel like Notre Dame's sitting at 10? Like, that's fair. Where do you like them against the rest of the top 10?
I mean, on paper, like if you look at it, obviously they're going to give them 10 just because of last year's standing. So like obviously LSU won it. South Carolina was up there. Utah was in that game with LSU. UCLA had a big year. Iowa, and then Ohio State, Virginia Tech beats Ohio State, and then you have IU in there. I'm trying not to be biased. Like I think.
Well, just like okay, I think so. I think a big part of this, Olivia's still hurt. Like if she wasn't, I think you could view Notre Dame a little bit differently, right? But since she's still hurt, and there's no clear timetable of when she's back, like I feel like it's easy to look at them and be like, okay, like they are going to be basically what they were at the end of last year, and just like that's where we'll slot them. Because like, look, Notre Dame has added like key players, right? Anna DeWolf and Hannah Hidalgo, Emma Risch, and there are other transfers, and that's, but other teams have as well, right? But the big part is like Olivia's still out, right? So I think for for the voters, it's easy to just kind of say, all right, well, we'll put them where they were, and then we'll kind of reevaluate there. But in your mind, like don't worry about being biased. Like, where do you feel like the Notre Dame women are kind of, because it seems to me like, just your reaction here, it seems like you think they should be a little bit higher, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so why do you think?
I think they should be higher because if you take what they did last year, given the adversity that they went through, that we went through.
You can say you were on that team.
Given the adversity that we went through, like, we made it to the Sweet 16 and lost 2 starters. You lost your point guard, then you lost your wing, who was the backup point guard.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot. Are you serious? Yeah. And then you go up against a team like Maryland that presses the entire game without 2 ball handlers. Okay, you lose in the Sweet 16. And then, given that, we had a short roster too. No one expected us to do that. No one expected us to beat Florida State when we beat them at home by a lot. Yeah, we fell to Louisville in the ACC tournament. No one expected us to beat NC State, though, to get to that game.
Yeah.
So if you look at what those players were still capable of doing, they deserve more credit. And then if you consider adding Hannah into that roster, it speaks for itself. It's unpredictable, like in the beginning of the year, like on paper, when you consider all the other things, like when we lost and not having lived back. So I would push them 4 spots, push them up 4 spots.
So 6.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think the team notices that? Do you think they care?
Yeah. Okay. But I think we have a really mature group. So I think they also understand everything that me and you just discussed of why it would be 10 on paper, you know?
Yeah. I'm a kind of person where it's like, hey, I understand, but I notice it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, I'm not, walking around like all bitter about it, but also like, I do notice, you know what I'm saying? Like, that sounds like what you think.
They might look at it as like, okay, someone believes that there's 10 teams better than us, which is going to piss you off. Right. Like, it kind of pisses me off, like, just saying it out loud, because like, I look at them, I'm like, there's not 10 teams better than you guys, but they understand the question with Liv is huge. It's everyone's main question. It was in the description of the polls that came out, like whether she's when or whatever, she's coming back or not. So they understand, but they also are very motivated, but they also know, like, I think we talked about that experience. Imagine them. It's the same kind of environment. You're all fighting for the same thing, except you're down 2 soldiers in your battle. So imagine you're going to battle, you lose 2 of your soldiers, and then you realize what you could do without 2 of them. That's a scary thought, because all you need is that togetherness and the collective understanding that no one else needs to know. No one else has to believe in you.
Right.
But if the Notre Dame team itself understands that, which they do, they're going to be huge this year. And then you throw add Hannah in there. I want everyone to see for themselves. I'm tired of talking about her. I just want everyone to see her play already. She's going to be so good, so great. And she just brings that swag, that intensity that I think is going to prove why, at the end of the year, I don't think they're going to land at 10 at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mark it. All right. So let's look at the top 25 by conference here. So the SEC has 5. Big Ten has 5. ACC has 5, with Notre Dame the second highest ranked behind Virginia Tech at 8. Based on our conversation just now, I think Notre Dame, that probably bothers them as well, not being the top team in the ACC. The Pac-12 has 6. Big East has 2, and the Big 12 has 2. It's crazy to me to still see the Big East, because it's like that's been gone from for such a long time. Let's look at the ACC on here.
All right.
Real quick, since that's the Notre Dame, that's the conference that Notre Dame sits in. Virginia Tech at 8, Notre Dame at 10. let's see. Maryland is no, they're no longer in the ACC.
Big
They're a
10.
Big Ten team. Louisville at 17, FSU at 18, and we're sitting there. Who am I missing? Why am I reading this wrong? Oh no, that's 5. That's 5. Yeah, we're good. So obviously Louisville loses. Obviously Louisville loses Haley Van Lith, and that's going to be difficult for them. It's hard to replace someone like that. Just freshman or not, like that's just
Right.
you don't want that, right? Like it's not what you want.
Tough
North Carolina sitting at 16 as well. So I think that you take exception with Notre Dame being behind Virginia Tech there, but with 5 teams in the top 25, all 5 in the top 20 there, one of the top conferences in the United States. How do you see this conference kind of matriculating throughout the year? Like, do you feel like Notre Dame can be a dominant team in the conference, or is it going to be one of those things where it's just like home and away is going to be a big deal in the ACC this year?
It always is. I think both.
Yeah.
I think Notre Dame's going to be a dominant team in the conference, but in the ACC, like any given night, anything can happen, home or away. That's the toughest thing about the ACC is that you have to bring your A game. Every team is good from top to bottom. Obviously, there's a difference. There might be a drop off here and there, but like it doesn't matter because they're filling rosters. They're talented. They're good. They're well coached. Like I said, you have to bring your A game. So like the ACC is going to be really fun. It was fun last year, but like now, I mean, the transfer portal again is doing its thing, and there's a couple different pieces from different conferences, which is good. So like we talked about North Carolina, they added Lexi Donarski, really good offensively and defensively. They lost Kennedy Todd Williams. She went to Ole Miss. Great pickup for Ole Miss, by the way. I think that's awesome for her and for their team. But they returned Deja Kelly. They returned Alyssa Utsby. That duo is really, really good. And they're well coached. They'll be really good going. Where were we? Virginia Tech, obviously returning ACC champs. But I think also what we didn't mention is those pods. Also, you have pods. So like, I'm pretty sure every year Virginia Tech plays UNC twice, and that's home and away. And then they go with NC State too and UVA, which they're going to be good too. UVA is going to be good this year. ACC, I'm so excited for it. So excited for it to tip off. But I think going back to what you said, it's not like nothing surprises me anymore in the ACC. Like upsets, blowouts, home or away. Just from experiencing it myself, you have to be ready for anything at all times in this conference.
What's the toughest place to play for you in your experience? Like when it's like, oh man, we're going to wherever place. Like I hate playing there.
Louisville. Oh yeah. To touch on them, I think it's awful that they lost Haley Van Lith, but Jada Curry's good. And I think she fits. We played it against her in our Shamrock game in St. Louis last year against Cal. She was with Cal and she transferred to Louisville. She fits his system. She is a great scorer and she never stops moving. Really high motor. She plays hard defense. And they lost a few pieces, but they brought some in, and he coaches well. He coaches them hard. He's super passionate, and they absorb all of that from him. So I mean, he's gonna whip them into shape. Louisville's gonna be good, no doubt in my mind. It'll just be new pieces, some new clicking, maybe some adjustments here and there, but they'll be good. No surprise there. Where else are we looking? FSU.
Florida State, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they return their leading scorer. I think she was the leading scorer. Was she in the ACC as a freshman?
The freshman?
Yep. Lanaya. Yeah. They'll be really good. And that's actually a hard place to play too, because it's really big. Florida State's arena is huge. And Brooke coaches them really well. They return, and I remember they were shooting a lot of threes last year and playing defense. So that's always tough coming from Florida State. And also a really good rebounding team. That's our 5 in the ACC, right?
Mm-hmm.
We want to touch on Notre Dame again. We can.
Let's go. Let's go.
Oh, all right. Let's touch on them. Put Hannah Hidalgo in the ACC, and I think she's just going to be great. I know she's a freshman, but I don't think it matters. I think she fits the conference perfectly because, like I said before, you have to bring your A game every time, night in and night out, and that's what Hannah brings every single day. You know exactly what you're going to get out of her. You're going to get that fire, that competitiveness. She's going to pick you up full court. She's going to bother you. She's going to score the ball. I think she fits the conference really well, and I think in a conference with a bunch of competitive teams, like that's what you need. You need that stability from your point guard spot, and I think that's going to be huge. I think, obviously, no doubt in my mind, they can go home with the ACC championship. Look at last year, what they did. No one expected us to win at Louisville when Liv went down.
Mm-hmm.
And we won on the road in the hardest place to play in the ACC, if I had to say. That's definitely the hardest place to play in. Backs against the wall, pulled through. So they're capable of absolutely anything. And Nielle's a great coach. We're going to run our offense. We're going to run our defense. You're going to get everything Notre Dame out of them this year. And I'm excited. I'm excited because, the first thing in people's mind is, okay, they're without Olivia Miles. It's questionable in that area. But when all those pieces are coming together, they're dangerous. Maddie Westbeld is back. Kylie's back. And you just have a ton of weapons from top to bottom. You could throw them inside and out. And their defense is looking even better. I think I don't know our percentage in scoring defense last year, but I'm pretty sure it was really good.
I think just listening to you and the way you're describing like other teams and then the way that you've spoken about Notre Dame, it just seems like last year, you guys they're certainly better equipped. And I think not having Liv, it obviously helps in that, okay, Nielle knows I need to replace this, right? I have to find a way to handle the ball because I know she's going to be out, and she knows obviously you're leaving the team. So that's something where it's okay, we have to replace that. Obviously, getting Hannah that is huge, just generally, for any program. That's going to be a big deal. But then adding the shooting too, getting Anna DeWolf and getting Emma Risch, and then having Sonia out there as well, where it's
huge.
You could use girls who just absolutely can just
flat out,
Yeah, they're just buckets.
You can't sit in that junk zone anymore.
Yeah.
You can't sit in a 2-3. You can't not go out and guard specific people. It's tough. It's going to be harder now.
Yeah, and having Maddie too, and Kylee also in that is Notre Dame was a really good rebounding team last year, one of the best in the country. And so I feel you can have good rebounders, sure. But also I feel that's a culture thing. There is just some programs are just you know what? It's just like Dawn Staley, you talk about. There are certain things about Dawn Staley teams are always going to have. I feel Notre Dame's going to be a good rebounding team no matter what. And that's only going to get better when you bring in Liv, who's such a big guard. She can help out that as well. And so
rebounding last year.
Yeah. So
I don't know that, but yeah, rebounding is definitely a culture thing because it's tough. It's hard. Rebounding is really hard. And you have to teach it. You have to instill it in them. Hey, we have to rebound here. People are going to climb up your backs and go for O boards. You have to rebound from top to bottom, but it also helps Notre Dame's identity because when we rebound, then we can get in transition, and that's how we want our points.
Right. And the other part about having to struggle last year with the injuries, and winning games that you shouldn't win is, and then you have so many players returning. It's you don't lose that grit.
No,
the grit stays. So it's you add players into the culture who can help you, can solidify the roster and just make it so you don't have a weakness on paper, right? And it doesn't mean everything's going to click all the time because that's not realistic in sports, let alone basketball.
From Nielle. You have to credit Niele in that area that she never changes the standard. She wants to rebound and run, and
yeah.
But you come to Notre Dame, you got to bring that.
Right. Like Notre Dame knows how to win games if their shot isn't falling, or if the 3-point shot like isn't isn't just clicking for whatever reason on a certain night. Notre Dame knows how to win in that environment, right? And you know, obviously, if we were to cover specifically like another program, then maybe we could say the same thing. But with Notre Dame, I think that the fact that there's a winning culture there, the fact that they were a Sweet 16 team last year, given the injuries and kind of the, I don't want to say holes on the roster, it's just like certain parts of the game that they couldn't do. Like, right, we've talked about it, like not a great 3-point shooting team, not a great running team, right? I feel like Notre Dame can play any kind of way that they need to win. And look at that. That's what basketball is, right? Like you want to be able to play however you need to play on any given night. And that's the sort of thing that travels, you know, being able to win multiple kind of ways, going on the road. I guess so. Just listening to you and how this is playing out, it seems like your expectations are, it's like, hey, Notre Dame's ranked 10th now. They're better than the next, like, you know, they're better than a 10th ranked team. And so you're kind of feeling like, hey, like the expectations should be very high for this program in 2023, 2024. I want to do the tiers real quick. Like, where do you see the tiers in terms of like, hey, realistic national championship contenders, and then the drop off from there? Like, just looking at the top 25.
LSU for sure.
Yeah.
UConn for sure. Iowa for sure. A lot of people don't want to count South Carolina in, but Dawn Staley's just, you never know what she can do because she's so good.
Championship coach.
Yeah. Like, so I'm putting South Carolina in there. I'm putting Virginia Tech in there. And I'm putting Notre Dame in there.
Okay. I mean, that's fair. Right. And we're going to get a good, look at that. Right. In the opener in Paris, Notre Dame plays South Carolina. That is on November 6th, which is a Monday, I believe at 1 Eastern time. Do I have that correct? 1 Eastern, 10 Pacific. We are going to do a live show right after that. Obviously, that's going to be nationally televised. We're going to do a live show, live recap, talking about the game, talking about what we saw. We're going to have a show next week talking about the exhibition game that came forward, and also previewing the Paris trip. So that's going to be very fun. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to hit the like button on this show, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know we're dropping new shows. We're just getting ramped up on this. It's going to be very exciting. We've got things in the works. We're definitely working on how to make this show as best it can be. We're very excited to do that. So you're going to want to catch us there. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We'll be back next week talking about the exhibition game. We'll be talking about the trip to Paris, and then we'll be previewing everything else. We might have a special guest. We'll see. We're efforting. We're efforting on that. Yeah. So thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of the week, and we will talk to you next week.